Alright guys, welcome to the first video of Cognition. This is where we're going to go over memory and stuff of that nature. We're going to look at memory, language, thinking, and problem solving. First slide we're going to look at is how we study and build memories as a human person and how these things interact with us in today's society. So we're going to look at cognition, and cognition is basically memory and its persistence of learning over time. So it's something that you continually try to learn. Sometimes if you guys learned something a long time ago, if you don't revisit that, you guys do forget it. So you want to continually learn the new material that's presented to you. Memory is information that has been acquired, stored, and can be retrieved. So if you can't retrieve it, is it technically a memory? What are some of the ways that, so what I want you guys to think about while you go over this, are some ways that help you remember, and how memory is also connected to biological aspects as well, and not just technically cognition. We have some different memory models, so we're going to look at the processing model. So we're going to look at first that encode gets information into our brain. Storage is what we consider when we retain that information. Retrieval is when we have that information, it comes back out. Parallel processing is our brain is able to process many different things at the same time. So even while you're thinking of memories and you're thinking of ways to remember this information, you're still breathing, your brain still knows how to do all this stuff. It still knows what all's going on. So it's still able to work, and it's a fascinating procedure. We're going to look at another memory model, which is Atkinson-Sheffrin information models, and it says that sensory meetings are fleeting, and these things just come and go as they sit there and go with it. Short-term memories encode through rehearsal, so repetition, and long-term memories finally move here for later retrieval. Working memory is an idea that came up by Alan Baddeley at the middle stages of learning, and helps us link the information you're reading with your previously stored information, so you sort of link things together, and this helps you remember them for a long-term process. Explicit and implicit memory, our mind works in two ways. Explicit memory are memory of facts that you consciously already know. These are things that you can just pull off the top of your head. What day is it? What month is it? What year were you born? Stuff of that nature. Effortful processing is encoding that requires attention and effort. So you might want to think about the way you're going to take a test, or things that you're going to have to pay a little bit more attention to, that you're going to have to actually try to remember. And some of this is usually where you're like, and then you try to think back and try to remember it. Automatic processing, and these are things that you automatically do and you don't even think about it because these are unconscious ideas. Implicit memories are things we remember and we don't even remember remembering them, but we know them. I know a couple of different things. I don't know where I got them from, obviously, at times, such as why Skype jumps up every 2 seconds on my computer. Sorry about that. I had to get rid of Skype. Automatic and implicit memories, procedural automatic skills that we learn. These are something after a while you just don't even think about it. You know how to tie your shoelaces. You know how to play checkers. You know how to play chess. You automatically process information about space, where something happened, when it happened, how it happened to you, and time. You understand the sequence of events and how these things affect us differently. Frequency is the unconscious knowledge of how many times something has happened in a day. You don't even think about it, but you understand that things keep happening, bad things keep happening, good things keep happening. You see this person walking down the hall, you smell that smell, and then you sort of understand it for that nature. Sensory memory, how it works is sensory memory records momentary images or sounds. You remember that a little bit more so because it's just a momentary image, just a sound is gone. This might be that itch that you have that you're going to remember it, but then something else is going to happen and you forget you even have that itch. I look at this as like hiccups too. Iconic memory is fleeting memory of visual stimuli, so you see something and then you forgot you see it. Brain games. Magicians are really good with this. Echoic memory, you can remember the last 3 to 4 seconds of a memory even if you weren't paying attention. This is when the teacher calls on you in class and you were not paying attention, but they said, what did I say? And they said, well, you said this, this, and this. They can repeat the last 3 or 4 seconds of it even though they weren't really paying attention. Capacities of short-term and working memory. Short-term can retain 7 information bits. It was brought up in class that you could possibly retain only 5 because it's plus or minus 2, which is your standard deviation for the information bits. But for this test, let's look at 7 information bits. Working memory varies depending upon age and other factors, and we can do better and more efficient work when focused without distractions on one task at a time. This is basically telling you that Yes, I understand that you can do 2 things at a time, but you're not going to do them as well as what you think you're going to. Levels of processing and effects of encoding. Chunking is organizing items into familiar units. What are the 5 senses? What are the colors of the rainbow? Roy G. Bibb, you're going to sit there and work on it, and Roy G. Bibb takes us to mnemonics, which is memory aids, helps out with the imagery of it, helps you guys remember things a little bit differently. Hierarchies, concepts, information is sorted into. For me, the very first thing that comes to my mind is biology and how you have your different classes and things that you put your animals into. Distributed practice is things that develop over a time period, so you just have to continuously practice it and practice it for it to get to work. Spacing effect is the math study or practice. This is what you do in most classes, unfortunately. And testing effect is enhanced memory, practice, retrieval. This is where I tell you guys, hey, look, if you can practice trying to remember it for a test by taking practice tests that you find online, sometimes for some people that helps them out. Levels of processing, there's a couple different ways we remember things that affect our long-term retention. Shallow processing indicates at a basic level, such as the word sound. This is basically shallow processing is definition. So you remember sun is big gas ball in the sky. Deep processing is you encode, you understand the retention, you understand what it does, and so you understand that the sun is this huge ball of gas that we all revolve around because of the gravity, and it heats up our world. So you don't understand just the sun as this, but you also understand how it applies in our everyday life. So we want to make all this information for us, especially on biology tests, is you want to make it more meaningful for long-term retention. You want to make sure that you can apply the terms to your everyday life. You can sit there and somewhat become psychologists at a basic level, and the more you can apply these terms, the better it's going to work for you as a long term. Memory storage and retrieval. Capacity of long-term memories is capacity of our memories is essentially there is no limit to it. We should be able to restore anything we want to, but we're not able to retrieve it as well as what we would like to. So we I think in here is like a library. You know that the memory is in there somewhere. Sometimes, you know the book's in the library somewhere, but sometimes you just can't find it, even no matter how hard you try, you just can't find it, and then when you don't need it anymore is usually when it comes around for me. We looked at biology last unit, so we're going to look at it again for right here. The frontal lobes is where, remember the frontal lobes, where is that? Where it's located on your body. The right side is going to help you understand memory process, or the front of the frontal lobes is going to help you understand the memories. The right frontal lobe is going to help out with visual. The left frontal lobe is going to help out recall. The hippocampus was a neural center. This helps out with explicit memories for storage. Different parts of the hippocampus do work with different parts of the memory. So the hippocampus is one of those huge things. Remember how we talked about hippo being like an elephant and their trunk. They remember everything. This is the thing you guys as high school students should basically know more than anything else is sleep helps with memory. Let me say it again. Sleep helps with memory. The cerebellum, the basal ganglia, and the memory process is we automatic process, so we go with what's natural. The cerebellum forms memories by classic conditioning. The basal ganglia is a motor movement, and this is formation. These memories are based upon our procedural memories for skills and how we go along and what we need to do to work it out. The amygdala is part of the limbic system. This is emotion and processing clusters that initiate memory. Emotions exist on a hormonal level, and hormones last longer than other feelings. So this is why sometimes when you have a feeling of anger, sadness, anxiety, things of that nature, they typically last in the body longer than what your other feelings were, because these are the hormones and they've been flooded our memories. Flashbulb memories are a clear memory of an emotionally significant moment or event. These are those memories that over time we take as the big things that have happened to us. For me, as I told you in class, was sort of the birth of my son. I can remember where I was at, what I was wearing, what I felt like, and it's little, I can see it visually in my mind right now. I can still see it. Changes at synapse level and memory, so how information becomes embedded into brain matter and how we actually get it here is a little bit differently. Long-term potential increase in cells firing after a brief rapid stimulation. So we get really excited about something and we can remember it better. If we are not really excited with it, from my opinion, you're not going to really help it out as much. If you're stressed out during the day or you're stressed out some sometimes that can help or hinder memory. For me, it helps because I can understand the material of the question. For some of you guys, I think it hinders because you guys get too much anxiety and stress built up about a test. Effective study habits combined with adequate sleep, though, have proven to be the safest and the best memory enhancer. Yet again, they go back to this whole sleep deal. That sleep is really important for you guys to understand how things work out. Memory is measured in 3 forms of retention. The first one is recall. This is just your basic fill-in-the-blank questions. You can understand that this is this. Recognitions, you can see how things relate, so you can do multiple choice. You can say, well, this one goes with this one, and you can understand it. Relearning is for sort of like for me on this class, like if you had honor psychology and understood it at the basic level, then you got AP psychology and you're relearning it again, so you're understanding and reinforcing what you've already learned. Recognition memory is quick and vast, and overlearning of verbal information increases intention. We do remember more than we recall. I think I told you guys yesterday, I asked somebody, what did you guys eat? And what did you do yesterday? They said, I don't know. I said, are you sure? They said, yeah. And I said, well, what did you eat last night for dinner? And they can start remembering more, but they couldn't recall it automatically. Retrieval cues are bits of information you can later use to access information. This is called priming, so the activation of particular associations of memory. These are things that, yet again, what did you eat for supper last night? What did you eat for dinner? What did you have for a snack? You can't think it up off the top of your head, but if somebody primes you with a question that can help you understand it, you can remember things a little bit better. Context-dependent memory is putting yourself back in the context where you experience something that you can prime your memory for retrieval. You might put yourself back in your mind to where you were sitting there listening to music and trying to study for the test coming up. Or you might put yourself back to where you can smell a smell or something of that nature. State-dependent memory is what we learn in one state may be more easily recalled in that same state. It's memory dependence. I call this sort of, if you're drinking caffeine when you study for a test, drink caffeine when you take the test. If you're happy when you are studying for the test, be happy when you take the test, if you can be, because it'll help you understand and recall that memory. Mood congruent is a tendency to recall experiences that are consistent with one's current or good mood or bad mood. And the serial position effect is our tendency to recall the best, the last, and the first items in the list. I'm going to give you a list of about 20 terms. You'll more than likely remember the first 2 terms and the last 2 terms after I tell you to write them down after we go through talking about the list. Forgetting, memory construction, and memory improvement. We sometimes forget things, a lot of things from time to time. So we have this 2-track mind that can sit there and do one thing one way and one thing one way. Anterograde amnesia. There are some amnesia techniques, and you guys have always heard of amnesia, but there's amnesia where it's retrograde, where we can't remember the past. And there's anterograde amnesia, where we cannot form new memories. Encoding failure says age and failure to pay attention. Brain areas that jump into action when young adults remember are less active in adults. Retrieval failures, we forget that forgetting is not memories faded, but memories unretrieved. So you're getting a clutter in your library over here that you see on the PowerPoint. You know it's there, but you just can't find it. And so we have interference where we have all these things that become cluttered a little bit. Proactive interference is new information that's hindered by prior learning. So it's hard to understand the new material because you have old material to base your thoughts on. Retroactive interference is when new learning disrupts old information. So you learn something new and it messes up the whole way you thought about something beforehand. You're like, oh, I never saw it that way. And so you have to go back and re-look at everything and try to figure it out. Memory is not precise. We do see things differently than they actually occur. So we remember things a little bit differently. What you may think you remember may not be the true story, because it goes back to there's always 3 sides of every story. There's your side, their side, and the truth. That's a good place to stop. This is going to be the end of tape 1. I'll put this up. Your access code will be federalism for the next test. So if it's not, come see me, because I've forgotten. I changed because I've got too much interference.